Hello, and welcome to the Innovative Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, Isolde Trachtenberg. Super happy that you're here. This is something that I want to talk to you about that I said in the previous episode, and I really want to focus on it for a second. And here it is. In every project that I've ever done, I get to a point in the project where the ideas are flowing and I feel like I'm on top of the world. And then this little voice comes in and says, do you really have what it takes to finish this? Do you really have what it takes to do it justice? I hate that little voice. I really hate that little voice because it's insidious and it's designed to make you doubt yourself. And, tell me if you've heard this one. We all do it. We all get to a place where whatever it is you care about that you really want to do, you start doubting that you can do it. And for me, this doesn't happen so much when I'm making music anymore because I know the extent of my skills and talents as a musician. And unless I'm really trying to learn a complicated song, I don't have a problem with this at all. If the song is complicated, though, I kind of go, oh, what kind of techniques do I need to bring into this to be able to master it, to be able to do it the way I envision doing it? And I actually don't doubt myself. I go, okay, I'm going to have to apply this technique and that technique, and I'm going to have to figure out this and that. I'm going to have to practice this little passage for just this little one passage for 45 minutes until I get the notes the way I want them. Because there are times when no matter what you do, you cannot get the notes to come out the way you want them. You slide funny, or you're not quite on pitch, and you just have to build that groove over and over and over and over and over again in that same place, that one measure of music. You're going to do it forever. Why? Because that's how you master the phrase. That's how you do it. So as a singer, I have no problem going, I can't do this yet. I'm going to do it. I'm going to figure out how to do it, but I can't right now. And then I'll do the practice and I'll apply the technique and make it happen. In writing, it's different. Partially, it's because I'm a much newer writer than I am a singer, right? I started singing, before I could speak. I was singing along in harmonies to things my mother sang, which is a great story. I hope it's true. I don't remember this. She's told me this. But with writing, it's different. I started writing, the first book I wrote, I was in my 30s, I think. That was a nonfiction book. And then I've written 5 more books since then, and I've got a whole bunch of books that I'm in the middle of writing and editing and da-da-da-da. And the reason I'm talking about this is that I've written multiple books, right? I've published 6 books. I'm working on getting the 7th one published. The 8th and 9th are in the hopper. Things are happening. Here's the thing, though. In every book, in every writing project like that, I get to a point where the idea is thrilling to me, right? The idea thrills me and excites me, and I'm fascinated by it. I'm charged up to do it. And that little voice comes in and goes, I'm not sure you're a good enough writer, The way it actually says is, I don't think you're writer enough to make this work. I don't think you could make this story be what you envision it being. And the same thing happens to me actually when I paint. I don't think you can make this painting. What you envision in your head isn't what you're going to be able to put down on the canvas. And that little voice I want to throttle that little voice because, again, it's just defeatist. There is nothing that is positive about that. And in fact, in the other night's Artist's Way episode, we were discussing this exact thing, this notion of self-doubt. Is there ever a good time for there to be self-doubt? And when we talked about it, we're like, yeah, if you're in danger, if there is some reason to fear for your life, absolutely, there's room to be self-doubtful about what you're trying to achieve. That's different than this self-doubt, which kind of makes you go, yeah, I just don't think you're going to be able to do it. And you have to deal with a couple of different things. First of all, it's a blow to your confidence to have that little voice say that. But also, it's not just a blow to your confidence. It makes you sort of go, oh, objectively, do I have the skills to make what I envision a reality? Now, on one level, maybe what you imagine is impossible to make reality. I can't fly by flapping my arms no matter how hard I try. I imagine it constantly. I would love to do it. It's one of my recurring dreams. I don't do it, right? Obviously. But that's okay to have self-doubt about. I'm never going to go to the edge of a cliff and go, I can fly, and try and fly. But this notion of, am I a good enough writer? Am I, quote, writer enough to be able to pull off this book that I'm writing? That's a tough one because it attacks at the very fiber of your identity. Are you a writer? Are you a singer? Are you an actor? Are you a dancer? Are you a sculptor or a painter or whatever? Are you? And you have to, no one can answer that question for you except you. But if you're in the middle of trying to do that creative endeavor of any kind, are you an accountant? Are you a lawyer? Are you whatever? If you're trying to do that endeavor of any kind, and that little voice comes up and goes, I'm not sure you can do this, it might be being objective and telling you, you know what? You cannot yet pirouette. You cannot do a one-handed cartwheel. And I say that with experience because I used to be able to do a one-handed cartwheel with no problem. I could not do one right now. You pay me a lot of money. So on some level, there's a skill level involved. Can you do it? Yes or no. But here's what's interesting. When it's something that you are still in the process of making, of creating, no one's ever done it before, right? As I was writing my book, The Tarot Card Murders, everyone I talked to about it was like, wow, there's really nothing out there like this, which makes me happy and thrilled, and I love it, and I'm excited to publish the book. And I had to sort of go through that process of, oh, are you a good enough writer to write what you envision a bunch of times? And here's what's interesting about that. I went through that process and had to beat back that voice with an imaginary shovel because it was not serving me, because it was attacking my ability to envision the story the way I wanted to envision it. And I just kept beating it back. And one of the things that happens when I'm writing a book, and I don't know if it happens to you this way too, when I'm writing a book, I have a vision for what it's going to be like all the way through. And I'm almost trying to catch up and tell the story that I see. And as I'm writing it and that little voice comes in and goes, no, I'm not sure you can do this. I'm not sure you're ever going to be good enough to do this. That self-doubt little, I have to stop and settle down and get mindful and be present and go, okay, are you trying to tell me something that's real? Or is this just self-doubt? Because like with painting, the line I imagine putting down on a canvas is never the line I put down. And I hate painting for that reason because there's no takebacks. So that's why I do digital art, because yes, there are takebacks, and it makes me a lot more confident in my abilities to make art digitally, painting-wise, because I know that if I make a huge mistake that I can just undo and I'm good to go. So the same thing happens with writing. I can undo it. If I wrote it and it's not how I wanted to say it, I can undo it and go back and redo it. And there's a comfort level in that. And so what ended up happening with the Tarot Card Murders as I was writing it is I kept having to go to that. Is this an objective? Do you have the skills? Or is this the self-doubt? And that's the two-pronged possibilities, right? And so as I did this process of going through and talking myself down off that, oh, I can't do this writing precipice, if you will, I realized that the finished book is better than I had imagined. I went through this process. I sat down with it a number of times with that little voice and going, are you telling me objectively that I'm not good enough a writer? Or is this just self-doubt? And there were times when it was, you don't have the skills. Go do this research. Go figure this out. Go find a better way of saying this. And there were times when it was just a lack of confidence in my abilities. And so you have to again, you know me, I talk about self-evaluation and assessment all the time. You have to assess for yourself. You have to evaluate for yourself. Is this real? Is this an actual concern that I need to pay attention to? Or is this just an attack on my self-confidence? If it's a concern you need to pay attention to, then go pay attention to it. Figure out what you need to learn and go learn it. If it's an attack on your self-confidence, you're going to have to tell it to sit down and hush up because it's not useful. So figure out if what that self-doubt voice is telling you is useful, and then behave accordingly. And if you're at all like me, you're going to find that the project you're working on, the endeavor, whatever it is, comes out much better than you even envisioned because you took the time to evaluate. Is this an actual valid concern I need to pay attention to? Or is this just an attack on my self-confidence? If it's the latter, tell it to sit down and hush up. If it's the former, yeah, you've got some work to do. Go do the work. That is a really good way of looking at this. Don't look at it as a a way to demean yourself. Look at it to see what kind of information it's trying to give you. Big difference and big distinction. Everything is trying to give you information. And maybe that's going to be yet another podcast episode. Alrighty, I hope you've enjoyed today's episode of the Innovative Mindset Podcast. This is Isolde Trachtenberg. I'm your host. This episode is brought to you by Brain FM, my app that I use. It's not my app, it's the app that I use for staying present, for boosting my ability to create, boosting my ability to meditate, boosting my ability to study and learn and do accounting, which is not my strong suit, but it does it anyway. It helps me stay focused and do what I need to do. If you want to try it, you can get you can try it for free, but there's also a 20% coupon if you go to Brain FM or brain.fm/Innovative Mindset. And Innovative Mindset, all one word, is the coupon, and you get 20% off. And because I'm an affiliate, I get a little bit of money back if you decide to buy it through my coupon. Until next time, I remind you to be bold, be creative, and most of all, be kind.